Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
It's a great day to gain some momentum. It's Lisa C. I'm doing a spotlight segment on people who are changing the game in their industry or in the lives of those they serve. This segment, I'm showcasing noteworthy women entrepreneurs and the moves they're making. Today, my guest is Karen Kaufman Wilson. Karen changes the game for young writers and directors. For the past 30 years, Karen Kaufman Wilson has worked in the film business and mentored aspiring writers and directors. Recently, she has been a consulting producer for the Bishop T.D. film company and is co-producer for 2 Lifetime Network movies, Envy and Lust. If you're a young writer or director and want to learn from a veteran how to get in the business and make your mark, today's interview is for you. Later in the show, you'll find out how Karen helped Shonda Rhimes. Welcome to the show, Karen.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. Well, I'm always excited to interview a veteran. So let's just kind of jump in. We know you changed the game for young writers and directors. What do you do and how do you change the game for them?
Well, I have worked in the business as what they call a development executive. And a development executive is usually what we call, your first line of defense. A script is submitted to a production company, and then the development executive reads and analyzes it and decides if it's a movie or a TV project. So I am the person that has to go usually to my boss and fight and scream and holler and beg and plead for a project to move forward.
Wow. So you're on the front line battling to help someone's script make it through. And
Absolutely.
Why is that?
And if I don't think it's a project that it merits being analyzed or pursued further, then it doesn't go anywhere. Then it's what we call a pass. Then I pass on the project.
Can you give us a couple of those merit measures, if you will?
Yes. The truth is I'm not like I didn't act as a development executive like a lot of people. Because I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit, I really understand and have a tremendous amount of empathy for writers. I mean, I know how hard it is to sit. Not that I've done it, but I can understand the angst it is to sit in front of your computer for days on days, writing something that you think is important and needs to be seen. So when I open a script, I look for the yes. I want it to work. I'm going there with full, let's make it happen. And in the first 10 pages, that's the point in which you have to prove to me that it can be done. If you don't ignite my interest in the first 10 pages, I probably won't finish the script.
So what's those keys in those first 10 pages that you look for? Those nuggets?
I'm not a big person on exposition. You don't have to spend a lot of time describing the chair that the character's sitting in. I don't need that. You grab me with either a scene that's like, oh my God, where are they? What are they doing? Oh my God. Or it's a character that you can tell has a characteristic that I've never seen before, or I want to see more of. If they are deceiving somebody, or if they are whatever they are, if they do something that I just never have seen before, it immediately captures my attention.
All right. Excellent. And wow, I just want to stay in that vein for a moment.
I know, it's okay. Writing is beautiful. There's nothing, it's a privilege to be in a position to be able to read people's work. It's a privilege.
That's excellent. How'd you get in this line of work?
I came to LA after my divorce from my husband, and I was a wounded little soul and didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I had gone to college, but I did not attend film school. a friend of mine who was in the record business said, Karen, you really love reading books and then seeing how they would look as a movie. You should be in the movie business. And I was like, what? And so by complete happenstance, I met a young lady who was Eddie Murphy's assistant. And she said, there's a job over at, oh my God, I can't believe his name is Danny Glover's company. And he's looking for an assistant to his development executive. And I know her, I'll recommend you. Oh, I didn't know what a development executive was. I didn't know. I said, oh, okay. So I interviewed with Helena, and to my shock, she hired me. And I literally learned on the job. I didn't know who Martin Scorsese was. I didn't know who Robert De Niro. So what I did was I made these little index cards and I wrote famous directors' names and then their credits on the back. Wow. And I memorized it. And it was the first time I read scripts. And the good news is that I found that I had an innate experience with writing. I knew on some level what was working and what wasn't, but I was insanely arrogant. Like the first things I wrote about people's work, I cringe now. Like, who was I? Like,
wow. You got some greater empathy. I know something.
Huh?
You developed some greater empathy.
Oh, but that took time. I was just full of piss and vinegar. It was ridiculous.
Wow. So what was the turning point in your career that the industry saw you as, a viable script reader?
I would think that when I was hired to run Carl Franklin's company, Carl Franklin had just directed Devil in a Blue Dress. And he was such a prestigious director that my being associated with him gave me a tremendous amount of credibility. And Carl is a true artiste. He is not a fly-by-night kind of director. And so it gave me a tremendous like viewpoint about directing and writing.
And how did you get that opportunity to work with him?
I had been working at a very low budget production company called Trimark. I had associate produced a movie called Sprung that Rusty Cundiff directed. So I had a lot of relationships with young writers and directors. And his producing partner, Jessie, when we met, she liked that about me. She liked that I had spent a lot of time in the independent film world. And so she also thought I had really good taste because I could talk about, films that other people may not have watched or paid as much attention to. Mm-hmm. And she valued my opinion about that because I learned, immediately that I had to be a student of film. So I watched every movie. I went to any panel about, there was a director, Stephen Frears, who had done Dangerous Liaisons. I sat at that panel with my mouth wide open because I thought he was such an incredible director. But there weren't that many people in the audience, and certainly nobody Black.
Right.
And I didn't keep my focus on just Black films. I just was a lover of all things. David Lynch. I mean, insane, obscure directors that people are like, who, what?
Wow. So it gave you versatility.
I still believe that for Black people in the film business. I want us to make all kinds of movies. If we want to make Christmas movies, if we want to make thrillers, if we want to make drama, if we want to make action, I want us to do it all. I mean, that's why I sobbed during Black Panther, because I saw us doing what I always wanted us to do.
Yes. Yes. Wow. So, gosh, I'm trying to figure out what direction to go in with you here.
There's a lot to cover, huh?
What is a typical day for you like?
Well, now as an independent producer, I am no longer, I don't have a job. So I have to generate any movement for my projects. So, for example, today before I spoke to you, I had to read an email from a writer I'm working with on a project called Safe Space. It's set up at Lifetime. Boris Kojo is attached to direct, and we're going to start shooting it in June. And we have to turn in, she's on her, what we call her 5th step in her contract. So it's her last step. So once she writes this, it's just going to get shot. So it's got to be right. So I have to generate all the notes because I spoke to the Lifetime executive yesterday, go over everything that we need to change in the script. So I am rereading all the emails that we've talked about with this project and make sure I have it on one document. And it's going to take me all day to get this document correct. And then I will send it over to the Lifetime executive. Once she signs off, then I can get my writer started. And then let's say we get that done by Tuesday. And then the writer will start writing and she'll call me every few hours saying, can I send you these pages? What do you think? So that's today. Tomorrow, I need to read 2 or 3 scripts that are sitting in my inbox. It changes drastically every day.
Wow. Let's talk about the 5 steps to, what is it, to a script, or what was you said you guys are the 5th?
Okay. When a writer is hired by a network or a studio, it can be a 3-step or it could be a 5-step contract, but the first step is usually your first draft. And then you get 2 polishes, which means they're just supposed to kind of fix a few things. And maybe the 4th step is what they call a production rewrite. Like we have to add some things for production value. And then the last step, and that's usually your last step. But like I can say, that can vary from 3 to 5 steps, all of those things. We are at our production polish. This is it. Once we're done, we're done.
I know that our listeners have a question in their mind. Where does the money reside?
Well, here's the thing. From a writer standpoint, they are paid for each step. So
okay.
let's just use the number 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
So your first step may be worth 40. Mm-hmm. Then the next step is 10. Then the next step is 10 until you reach your the whole 100,000. And the highest amount could be on that last step, but for many networks, it's the least amount of money. So let's say that the money was 100,000 and the mm-hmm. last step could maybe only be worth 10. You've already been paid out 90.
Okay.
And the reason why you do that is because you may want to replace the writer.
Wow.
So if you want to replace the writer, if that last step is only 10, the network or the studio could say, you know what? We only owe them 10 grand. Let's just pay them all, get a new writer.
Wow. Even though they paid out $100,000.
Yeah. I mean, they can't get that money back. Right. So they've already done that investment, but do they want to keep doing the investment? And that 10 doesn't feel so painful.
Right. Right. Wow. That's very valuable. Thank you. And so while we're here, what do you consider a young writer or director? What qualifies a young writer or director?
In my mind, it's usually someone, well, first of all, they're usually unproduced. Their projects haven't been made. And I don't always look at it just as age. I don't think of it like you have to be young when you're in your 20s. I mean that you're just young and you don't have as much experience as a veteran.
Okay. Wonderful. So when you work with young writers and directors, how do you help them? What do you do?
Well, first of all, I'm like I said, I have a tremendous amount of empathy for them. So you kind of act as a therapist, a consultant, and you have to understand how to gently nudge them along in the process. Mm-hmm. Because there's points where it's incredibly frustrating. Like we've turned in drafts and the head of the network is gone, don't like it. Start all over.
Wow.
And they're heartbroken. They're heartbroken. And you have to allow them to be heartbroken and let them have those feelings. But I still got to get my project out of me.
That's right.
So I have to then say, okay, so look, let's talk about how we can go about making this work and get them motivated again. But I think it's really important. I mean, this is just across the board in life. People have a right to be heard. Sure. And their feelings to be validated. So I don't act like this isn't a big deal that they're having a feeling at that moment. And sometimes during the writing process, they're having a tremendous amount of trepidation about a scene or how to get to the next scene or whatever it is. I always make myself available that we can talk it out. You might be talking it out while I'm grocery shopping at Trader Joe's, but yes. We can talk it out, or I'm at my son's football game and walk away from the stands for a minute and we can just hash out some ideas and get you moving on because there could be a little block going on. But I just understand and always make myself available during the process.
So how should a young writer or director approach you to potentially work with you?
One of the things that I think that the mistake that people often make with me is I get a lot of response through LinkedIn and they'll say, would you read my script? Would you listen to my pitch? And I always say no. Because my feeling is I've worked really, really hard to get my experience and my time has a tremendous amount of value. So you have to show me why I need to spend my time on you. And I often tell people, stop asking something of me, do something for me. So for example, I have one of the films that I co-produced is airing tonight on Lifetime. It's called Lust. Now you could watch that and you could say, she's really interested in sort of interesting, sexual,
edgy,
confusing characters who are at a crossroads in their life. So then you read some article in a magazine about a woman who is struggling with sexual addiction. Let's just say it's that. Now, you just think it's an interesting article and you send it to me. You say, I think there's something around making this a movie. Now, I don't know if it's a movie, but the fact that you looked at my work and then thought, well, this article may appeal to her, that catches my eye. And if I read the article and I go, you know what? Maybe there is something to this. Maybe I could. What if I got the right director on this? What if I got the right piece? If I start that churning, then I'm going to call you.
Wow.
And then I'm going to say, and we can start talking. You can say, well, I've got an idea of how we could make it. And next thing you know, we could be in business together. But don't come at me asking me for something. Give me something. And right now, you only have your sweat equity to trade on and use that. Mm-hmm. You can ask me something like, maybe your listeners don't know what coverage is, but coverage is the most gruesome and great tool in the film business that people don't often talk about. When a script is submitted to a production company, we give it to a reader and a reader generates coverage. And a coverage is a log line, which is one sentence to describe the story, the synopsis of the story, and what they think of the writer. And if that reader says that they're terrible, then most people don't go any further. If someone who was a writer said, hey, you know what? I'm really interested in reading more scripts. I'd like to generate a piece of coverage for you. And tell me what you think. You want to read one of the 5 million scripts I have to read for me, right. And you're going to give me your opinion? Great. I'll send it to you. You generate me coverage. And then your coverage might be so interesting. I want to talk to you. Or I'll just talk to you because you did the coverage.
Wow. That's valuable. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So, it's no secret that the struggle is real in the TV and film industry.
Super real. Super real.
And you have you have your foot in both. You have this Lifetime movie, congratulations, that's coming out today, right? And it's a 2-part. Talk to us about that for a second.
That was an interesting project. Sean Robinson, at the time I was a consulting producer for Bishop T.D. Jakes' film company. Sean Robinson sent the books to the gentleman I was reporting to. His name is Derek Williams. Derek smartly then went to Lifetime and convinced them to give them a 3-picture deal off of the idea. They had just done Faith Under Fire with Toni Braxton. It had made great numbers. Lifetime wanted to be in business with Bishop. So then he took those 3 books that were written by Victoria Murray, set them up at Lifetime. And then he turned to me and said, okay, get it done, basically. So I developed all 3 books into the screenplays that they are now, hired the writers, went through each of those steps with each writer at the same time. So there was 3 of them going on. It was lust, envy, and greed. And eventually, to our surprise, Lifetime during the pandemic decided, hey, we got to make these movies and we got to make them now. So it was just the mad rush to get them to the finish line.
So that was your 2020 pandemic time.
While everybody was, and look, I deeply felt for people who were suffering during 2020. But for me, it was God really blessed me. And I am very grateful to Derek Williams and to Bishop Jakes for the opportunity. It was great.
Excellent. Excellent. So what would you say is different about working with you?
Here's the thing. It's the good and the bad. Like I am a very straight, no chaser kind of person. And I am not uncomfortable with us having a difference of opinion. In fact, I welcome it. And I think that there's a way to respectfully have a conversation where we disagree and we can come to an agreement. And then I don't think about that disagreement again. Perfect example. I am partnered with a woman named Dominique on the project that we're doing with Boris called Safe Space. And I made a mistake and she was upset with me and she called me and she told me she was angry at me. And I said, you're right. I did it. And I am really sorry. And this is why I did it. I didn't think it was going to affect the production part of the process, which is why I didn't let you know. But again, I'm sorry that it bothered you. And I know in the future. And she and I never had to talk about it again, kept it moving. Other people aren't comfortable with that. Mm-hmm. And so when you work with me, you have to be willing to kind of be in that uncomfortable space as this process goes, because it's just a part of the business and it's not personal. Right.
Oh, that's excellent. So we can't keep everybody hanging any longer. How did you help Shonda Rhimes?
Okay. I didn't think it was a big deal at the time. I read this script and it was by a writer that no one knew at the time. I thought her writing was outstanding. We had 2 projects where I needed to find writers on. I went to my boss, begged and pleaded, and they decided that she was an outstanding writer as well. And her name is Shonda Rhimes. It was really, I am telling you, I didn't think about that moment again until I watched her career just blossom. So
how long ago was that?
I'm talking like 30 years ago. I mean, this is long before she was Shonda Rhimes.
Wow.
And I doubt if Shonda has a clue. Like, I don't even know if the deal ever went through with Disney Animation, but I bet you she would be like, who's Karen Kaufman? But trust me, Shonda Rhimes went on to make her success all on her own.
That's right. And she was Michael Jackson bad.
I knew she was a talent. I knew she was a talent.
Wow. She was Michael Jackson bad way back then.
Right. Look, I saw the Jackson 5 when they opened for the Ohio Players. So,
okay.
So, sometimes you just get a chance to see it early.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's a terrific share. So what about the work that you do gets you up in the morning?
You know, I long to make projects that make people think and feel and contemplate and talk about. And because I've had movies and TV shows that have had a definite impact on the way I view the world. And I hope one day to make something like that. And you have to cut your teeth on something that's a little more commercial, like Lust and Envy, with hopes that one day you'll make something that has a real, you know, like the Selmas of the world, where it just has a huge impact.
Yeah. And so that's a good place. So what is the goal? To produce a film like an...
I don't know if it has to be Selma, but for example, there were, you know, movies that were made, you know, The Postman Rings Twice, that are classic thrillers that I would love to be a part of making something that withstands the test of time. When I am very good friends with a director named Ted Witcher, and when he was making Love Jones, trust me, he didn't know that Love Jones was going to be the quintessential Black romance movie. Mm-hmm. When I was an assistant in post-production on Boomerang with Reggie Hudlin, I did not know that Boomerang was going to be an iconic comedy. I don't think you know when it's happening, but gosh, what a great thing to have happen if you do it right.
Yeah. That's excellent. And what would you say to Black or African-American people trying to break into the TV or film industry? Any tip, any advice? Read,
watch. Any chance you can get your hands on a pilot. And oftentimes you can actually Google it online and you can get copies of pilots that, and I don't mean just Black pilots, any pilots, you know, from Breaking Bad to Ted Lasso to whatever is, you know, really strong material. Keep reading really good material, because you'll start to see this, you'll start to see trends in those works. Like why, oh, this dialogue is really crisp. Oh, and this one, they really captured the mood, or whatever it is. You'll start to see what good writing looks like. Once you've seen good writing, you're a different person. It changes your whole perspective about what you're writing, because you'll have to say, gosh, would the person feel like this if they read my material? So I really encourage people to, like, don't listen to friends in your circle. They don't know. Mm-hmm. Go outside of your circle and read other material.
Excellent advice. And, you know, with so much going on, I know last year during the pandemic, you were busy, but how do you give back? And is being part of the solution today important to you?
It's really important to me. It's very, very important to me. And the way that I try to give back, like I am very focused right now on exploring young Black female writers, because I have this open door at Lifetime where I can go to them, you know, with ideas. I am very focused on trying to keep those kinds of opportunities, like I was able to provide for the writer of Envy. Nneka Gersel had written a script. I thought it was great. I spoke to her agent. We were looking for a writer on Envy. He said, you really should use her. And I actually said, I don't know if she'll respond to this material. Well, she did. And now I'm working with her on a second project. It gives me so much pleasure to have been able to help her get her first job as a TV writer. And in turn, she'll always feel a sense of gratitude to me. And it's just, I'm so excited to see that happening. And so right now, that's my focus. I am really looking for, you know, maybe they're a story editor on a TV show or something. They may not have a lot of experience, but I might be able to sell them up at Lifetime.
Love it. And in terms of people connecting with you, are you on Clubhouse? And if so, what's your handle?
I am on Clubhouse. I am just starting to kind of, put my toe in the Clubhouse world, which has really been interesting. It's like something I've never quite seen before. And I really enjoyed it.
It's fabulous. And for someone with you with the experience and expertise, oh, wow. People would, you know how you say, sit at your feet. They would sit in your room and glean.
Yeah, I really found it to be really interesting. And I love the vast amount of different subjects.
Yes.
I love it.
So, what is your handle? How can they reach you on Clubhouse?
It's at Karen Kaufman. I don't think it's Karen Kaufman Wilson. I think it's at Karen Kaufman.
Okay. And do you host any clubs yet, or do you?
I haven't, because like I said, I'm so new to the process. I have to. I'm kind of playing with an idea. I haven't quite worked it out.
Okay, we'll stay tuned.
Okay.
And how would someone reach out to you other than Clubhouse?
My email address is at kkwgene at gmail.com. So I can be reached that way. I will tell you that I will be honest and say, I'm not going to be able to talk to you for like 2 weeks because I've got a lot of other things that I'm trying to get done.
Sure.
And I will, and I will pay attention if you listen to this interview and you write me and you ask me for something. If you make that mistake, I will probably delete your email.
Well, you guys heard it. That's probably the most valuable tip in this interview. And as I always say in closing, remember, be a game changer. The world has enough players.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.